The small town rested in its usual nighttime silence when a meteor shower streaked across the sky with silvery sparks. Clara watched the spectacle from the window of her tiny apartment, lost in thought. For the past 3 years, her routine had been reduced to surviving one day at a time, carrying the silent pain of losing Raphael, her only child. Each breath was a reminder of what she couldn't change, an echo of the emptiness consuming her heart. The morning after the meteor shower, something inexplicable awaited on the outskirts of town. A gigantic staircase, made of translucent crystal, hovered above an open field. Its glow was almost hypnotic, reflecting sunlight into dancing prisms of color. There were no visible steps on the ground, only the first one floating a few feet in the air, as if waiting for the first brave soul to touch it. The entire town was drawn to the sight, but fear and distrust kept anyone from venturing too close. Whispers of divine signs and ominous omens spread among the residents. Clara, however, felt something different. Something deep, almost visceral, seemed to call to her. Throughout the day, she tried to ignore the growing urge to return to the field, but that night she dreamed. In the dream, Raphael stood at the top of the staircase, smiling as he used to when he was little. He didn't say a word but extended his hand, inviting her. Clara woke up with her heart racing, a mix of pain and hope coursing through her veins. It had to be a sign, she thought, a call to something greater, something that might bring answers or at least a chance to see him again. The next morning, Clara went to the field. A small group of curious onlookers was still there, but no one dared to approach. Ignoring the astonished stares, Clara walked toward the floating step. As she touched it, a wave of energy coursed through her body. It was as if an invisible weight had been lifted from her chest, leaving her light but exposed. Summoning her courage, she stepped onto the first stair. The world around her seemed to vanish. The staircase carried her into what appeared to be another dimension, a surreal landscape where sky and earth merged in fluid hues of color. The air was dense, almost tangible, and every breath felt like a deeper plunge into a sea of unfamiliar sensations. The first layer of the sky. The physical. Everything around her seemed to reflect fragments of memories and feelings she had buried. As she walked, she noticed the scenery shifting with each step. Familiar shapes emerged from the golden mist that enveloped the place. Her home, the car she drove on the day of the accident, Raphael's school. Each scene seemed solid for a moment before dissolving into the ether. Clara realized she was in a place where her own story would be tested. To continue, she knew she would have to confront what she feared most, the truths she had avoided since her son's death. At the end of the path, a new crystal step materialized before her. It glowed with a soft, almost inviting light. Clara hesitated for a moment, feeling the weight of what she had already experienced. But something within her, perhaps the same force that had drawn her to the field that morning, pushed her forward. With steady steps, she ascended to the next level. And so, she was drawn into the second layer, where new challenges and revelations awaited. As Clara passed through the portal to the second layer, the emotional, she immediately felt a shift in the atmosphere around her. The air grew thicker, charged with an electric energy that made her skin tingle. When she opened her eyes, she realized she was no longer in the surreal setting of the first layer, but in a space that was both familiar and unsettling. It was her home, or at least a distorted version of it. The walls seemed to drip golden light, the furniture trembled slightly as if alive, and a dense fog cloaked everything, blurring the details. Clara moved through the space, each step echoing as though the floor was hollow. Then she heard the sound of children's laughter, clear and sharp, coming from Raphael's room. Her heart raced. She followed the sound, but when she opened the door, she didn't find her son's smile. Instead, she was confronted with the most painful day of her life. She and Raphael in the car, arguing. The space around her transformed. She was now inside the vehicle, reliving the moments before the accident. She could hear her own voice, laced with impatience, scolding Raphael for forgetting something at school. She could see his face, a mixture of sadness and defiance, just before he murmured, "I'm sorry, Mom." It was the phrase she had blocked from her memory, drowned out by the screech of brakes and the crash that followed. Clara tried to scream, to say something to her past self, but she was trapped as a spectator. She felt every emotion like a devastating wave. Guilt, loss, the desperate wish that she had acted differently. When the scene finally dissolved, leaving her alone in the mist, Clara collapsed to her knees, sobbing. But then something happened. A gentle voice, seeming to come from within her, whispered, "Accept." Clara realized this was the trial of the second layer. To accept what had happened, without fleeing or trying to change it. With difficulty, she stood up, wiped her tears, and took a step forward. A new crystal step appeared, glowing brightly. As she touched it, a sense of lightness washed over her. She climbed, determined to continue, even knowing greater challenges lay ahead. Upon reaching the third layer of the sky, the spiritual Clara was enveloped by absolute darkness. The void seemed infinite but wasn't frightening. There was a sense of serenity, as though she was in a sacred space beyond time and place. Gradually, small lights began to appear around her, floating like stars in a galaxy. Each point of light pulsed with distinct energy, and Clara had the uncanny sense that each one was a life, a story, a fragment of universal existence. At the center of this ethereal cosmos, a brighter light began to take form. It was a translucent figure, undeniably human. As the light stabilized, Clara saw that it was Raphael, not the boy she had lost, but an older, radiant version of him, as if his essence had transcended time. He didn't speak, but his presence conveyed a peace Clara had never felt before. She realized this connection went beyond words. It was as though emotions and thoughts were shared directly between them. Suddenly, the lights around her began to shift, forming images and scenes. Clara saw moments from her own life. Some she remembered clearly, others that seemed long forgotten. But the focus was always on her choices, on how love and fear had shaped her decisions. She also saw Raphael in different moments of his brief life, including those she had never witnessed. He was happy, playing, exploring the world with curiosity. The vision brought tears to her eyes, but they weren't of sadness. For the first time, she felt she could see her son beyond her loss. Raphael's figure extended a hand to her, and Clara took it. In an instant, it was as if all the weight of her grief dissolved. Raphael wasn't lost. He was part of something greater, just as she was. The crystal staircase, she realized, wasn't just a path to confront her fears, but a bridge to understanding her connection to the universe and to those she loved. As the light around her began to fade, Clara felt renewed. She returned to the field where it had all begun, but the staircase was gone. The sky was clear, and the silence was filled with the sounds of life around her. Clara knew something inside her had changed forever. She still missed Raphael, but now she understood he had never truly been lost. He was a star in the vast sky, a light that would always shine within her. With one last glance at the horizon, Clara walked back toward the town, ready to live again. If this journey has got you curious for more, click on the subscribe button. Here you'll find captivating stories that will stir your imagination and your heart. Don't miss out.